Hey everybody, this is Dr. Maples. Today we're back with 5 Minute Sociology, and we got a tough one. We're going to talk about George Herbert Mead's Stages of the Self in 5 minutes or less. We're going to go through each of the three steps and explain it, along with some related terminology that you need to know, and then help you understand examples of each of these. Got a lot to do. Let's get started. George Herbert Mead was a social psychologist who tried to understand how we create our unique individual identities and where society is part of that. He crafted something he called the stages of the self to try to understand how, as children, we are socialized to understand how everything works. He specifically argued that when we're young, we go through three stages of the self in creating our unique identities. Now, the first stage of the self is the preparatory stage, and this is focused on when we're toddlers, just a couple of years old. At this stage, we don't understand who we are, we don't even have a sense of self developed, and on top of that, we really don't understand how we as an individual fit into relationships with other people. Thus, what do? We imitate. We try to say the words that our parents and the people around us are saying. We mimic the faces that we see, and we go with some basic core emotions. This is where we're just getting started in developing who we are as a person, because language, basic emotions, some of these skills are the things that will help us gradually understand how we relate to others and how we fit into this whole puzzle that is society. The second stage of the self is the play stage, and this kicks in around age 3. At this point, we move on from imitation to now trying to play roles and understand how all the puzzle pieces fit together. Great example of this is the game House, right? We play parent roles, sibling roles, maybe we also play police officer roles or firefighter roles. These are all things where we're trying to understand how the significant other, an important figure in our society that has certain expectations put upon them, fits into the puzzle with other people. If I'm a police officer, for example, I would behave this way, and this is how I fit into the lives of other people. I help other people. As a firefighter, I would help put out the fires that would help other people. As a parent, I do this. As a sibling, I do this. Or even if you're playing the baby, I would do this. At this point, again, we're thinking about the significant other, how, as by playing this particular role, we fit into the puzzle piece of our society and the relationships with the people around us. The third and final stage of the stages of the self is the game stage, and this starts kicking in around age 7. At this point, we have more or less a sense of who we are as an individual, understanding that that's going to change with time. But now we start playing with the idea of how we fit into the puzzle in relation to other people. This is where we start thinking about games and how they have rules and regulations of how we're supposed to behave. And in this sense, we're thinking about, again, how our behaviors would be regulated by those same rules. Great example of this is watching 7-year-olds play Little League ball. It's exciting because they understand that they hit the ball, then they have to run to first base, but then there's conditions on how you can run to first base. For example, if you're struck out or if you had a pop fly and it's caught, you're out, so you can't go to first base. Compared to if you get a good hit and goes into the outfield and hits the ground, now you can go to first base. And then the whole time there's parents pointing and kind of helping to gesture what you are and are not supposed to do. This is great because now we're learning how we're supposed to behave, and we also understand the rules for this. This is where we begin thinking about something called the generalized other. Now, previously we talked about the significant other, where you're playing an important role in how other people would relate to you. With the generalized other, we're now taking the opposite. We're thinking about how we're supposed to behave in relation to other people. This is also a topic, too, that we begin to think about how other people would expect us to behave, and therefore that shapes our behaviors. Our coach would want us to do this, and so this is what we do. In the end, this starts to walk us through this process now of how we are supposed to behave in our society. We understand that there's rules to how things work, what we are and are not supposed to do, and in the end, it helps us to socialize and understand how we interact with other people under very specific situations. Now, this continues as we age because this is just the first couple of things when we're thinking about socializing children, but nonetheless, it sets us up for success in the future, hopefully. So there we have it, the stages of the self. The big idea here is that we now see how we're socialized to think, behave, and act in very specific scenarios and situations, and to know how things work. But this raises some other really exciting related terminology, things like primary and secondary socialization. Primary largely focusing on those early socialization experiences, still sticking with us over time. Secondary thinking about the people around us who fine tune things just a little bit. Maybe we'll do a 5-minute video on that that in the future. But I'm out of time. I'll see you next time.